Hi, I'm Kyle, and on this episode of the MWA podcast, Sean and I are asking Maria Carlo and Brian Murrah the 5 questions. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out their interview on episode 541. So welcome back to the show, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yes, well, before we get into the 5 questions, let's dip our toes in the woodworking news. So first off, Caleb James has the cigar spoke shave he came out with for a few years ago, or about a year ago, should I say. But now he has a metal version of that cigar shave. So it's actually a cigar shave. So it's a rounded shave, and he's made it out of all kinds of woods that you could order. Boxwood, kingwood, apple, ebony, pear, you name it. But he's been working, trying to do a metal version of it, and he has one out now. I'm not sure it's for sale as we're recording, but maybe by the time this post it will be out there. I know he's made some posts on Instagram, and it looks delightful as far as, you know, getting a metal shave. And, you know, it's going to be I don't know if more durable is the right word, but yes, it is more durable, but it looks to be, you know, a excellent shave and at a decent price. It's $235, which is basically the same price as some of his wooden shaves, but you know, some of the more exotic woods are a little bit more expensive than that. Like, you know, if you wanted one in African blackwood, it would be $325. So, you know,
yeah.
You got that. But yeah, this would definitely be the I guess the most durable version of the shaves he makes, and looks wonderful. I have his old round shave, which I don't think he makes anymore, which is somewhat similar, and I've heard nothing but rave reviews on this one too. So fantastic.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the metal one is sure to be the coldest cigar shave in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
or maybe a cooling touch in the summertime. I don't know. However that might work, but it is very interesting. Like you said, more durable, but I wonder the comparison if you held one of the hardwood versions and that, you know, what the sensation is.
Yeah, he said he's worked with a number of materials, so he was getting the same feedback as he was from the wooden one. So
you think the vibration just of the tool itself would be different?
Yeah, and that's what he was trying to avoid. So that's why he went through a lot of different materials. I think this is a version, some you know, spec of aluminum, I believe. So yeah, it looks interesting. You know, if I was, you know, like I said, I have his previous round shave, which is somewhat similar to this as far as the really, really tight radiuses it can get into. But yeah, I would be thinking about whether to go with the metal or wood one at this point.
Yeah, that'd be put my hands on it decision, I think.
Yeah.
Especially at the same cost. It's like, you know, when you're deciding against wood type or.
Okay. We need Handworks come this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need Caleb to be there. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yep, let's schedule that up.
We need like a Southern Handworks.
Yeah.
You got to get the brothers out of Iowa. I don't know if that's happening.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. We got the Texas Woodworking Festival. It's getting close.
I know. Close. You guys are lucky there, and I was lucky to see Kyle in Iowa.
Yes.
Because I drove to Iowa and picked them up at the airport. Well, Kyle and Brian, from Pennsylvania, but Iowa's accessible to me. Texas is a far way. So, you know, it's hard to meet all. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
That's right.
The moving shows do their best, but a unique show like what's in Amana, Iowa is in Amana, Iowa. and the whole place is so cool. It was perfectly suited. We got a great Airbnb just down the road. It's awesome.
Yep. It was pretty cool. Well, next up is the T-Fence Micro Mag Adjuster. Now, I've seen this before. I think actually Mark Spagnolo had a little thing on one of his Friday shows or something like that a couple of months back. But I forgot to mention it here, and I just saw somebody else talk about it, and I went, this is pretty cool. It's not cheap for what it is, but it's pretty unique. So basically what this is, it's a little thing that uses magnets to attach to your fence on your table saw. And then it has a little thumb wheel that you can move so you can micro adjust your T-fence. And it works basically off one of the mag switches as well as an embedded magnet in this little adjuster mechanism. It's, when you look at it and go, hey, this is very simple, but once you see it in action, it's absolutely phenomenal as far as making those micro adjustments without, doing like all of us, bumping your fence a little bit this way. Nope, too much. Back a little bit.
It's still so you're still locking the fence down traditionally with a little cam lock, right?
Well, no, you
or
would
you don't have to with this.
You don't have, well, you would eventually, but with the cam lock not locked down, you're able to just move it just a little bit and then lock it back down. Yeah.
So there's enough grab to that thing to actually
that's
another scope.
That's why their magnets are there.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That is
yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And like you said, a little expensive, but for the form factor and what it's doing, if that's your jam, I get a kick out of the a lot of the product photos show other digital readouts of the fence as opposed to the tape.
Yeah.
So, but like then you can see the decimal, that you're moving it.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And and the other thing that this company sells, this Canyon Fire Tools, is they also make these little things called iron chips and magnetic film. So these are like little chip things that you can self-adhesive that you can put on some, so you can use like magnet devices, or they actually have film that I guess is rated up to 95 pounds. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And that stuff's really reasonable. It's like $5. And so so if you have some tools around that you would like to, attach magnets to or something like that, maybe not exactly using their micro adjuster, but if you want to do something else with magnets on something that's phenolic or something like that, they might sell some accessories you might be interested in too. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That just made me think of something I saw recently. There's a University of Michigan physicist, scientist, something that developed a non-ferrous magnetic material.
Interesting.
It's some polymer, something about it. I didn't read up on it. I just saw it kind of blurbed, and that's very interesting to me. They found a way to have a non-metal, non-magnetic material molecularly changed to be magnetic.
Okay. I need that for my router table so I can use
I mean, I think they're talking about it in like
magnetic featherboard,
magnetic, or like in medical use where it could be flexible and magnetic. There's all sorts of weird applications, but anyway, kind of wild.
Oh, so it's not made for woodworkers then?
I don't believe so. I think it's largely experimental at this stage, so we'll see.
Oh, anyway. I know, Brian, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Hey, you're talking about the non-ferrous magnetic. Have you ever seen them levitate that frog?
Levitate a what now?
So they can levitate. The way it works is inside a very strong magnet, it arranges the water molecules, because you got two hydrogen and oxygen. They'll all orient the same way, and it'll give a positive side on the hydrogen side and a negative side on the off hydrogen side, because they're at 120 degrees. They're not at 180 degrees.
Yep.
So you can actually make water magnetic with the strong enough magnet to orient the molecules. So I'm wondering if that works.
I wonder if it's similar to that, but maybe somehow producible, where it's a synthetic frog.
Yeah,
that's doing that thing. So, but the same concept.
Yeah.
That's it is pretty cool. I mean, that whole liquid fluid science like that is very interesting.
Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole. I remember one time I visited a biomedical engineering company up in the Woodlands, and they were doing some interesting stuff with big magnets. But of course, they use big magnets and all kinds of imaging stuff. But this was some interesting stuff. Probably the levitating frogs type stuff, Anyway,
cool.
But with that, wouldn't be a trip through woodworking news without a stop at Woodpeckers, and we do have that stop, and they have more stuff that just scratches that itch I have for marking and measuring tools. They have a micro squares. Yeah, well, they got a adjustable combination square and a double square, but they're extremely small. In fact, they're so small that there are no markings on the actual rules on the
so it's
combination
not a
and double square
tool. It's a reference.
It's a reference tool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's more like engineer squares.
Yeah.
But one of them, it's, I think I know Starrett makes a really, really small double square, and so it's probably in that range, I would say, but it's a lot cheaper than the Starrett version because I've looked at the Starrett version. For both of these, you couldn't even buy the Starrett version double square, and this, like I said, it has a combination square and a mini micro double square.
Nice.
And I think introductory offer, both of them together like $100, and separately the combination squares like $60, and the double squares $50. So yeah,
a little bit of savings getting them both, and for what it is. I mean, you're talking about a square that you're going to put on to make sure your dovetails are plumb.
Yeah, and to give you some reference, I think they both come with two blades, a narrow blade and a wider blade. So the wider blade is 1/2 inch wide and the narrow blade's 1/4 inch wide. So, that would be good for checking squares and dovetail, that kind of thing, the narrow one. But it would scratch an itch.
And small boxes. I mean, there's a reason. I have a few short squares.
There's a picture of Kumiko in the background, so I'm sure you could find some uses for that.
I've got a Veritas. I think it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches little square. I've got the Woodpecker's little reference square that I use on my chisels. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a maybe.
The little small one we've got that is, it's that same one from Veritas, but we threw that in the cart to kind of get up to free shipping with Lee Valley. This thing gets you free shipping all the way from
makes it worthwhile, right? I mean, it paid for itself.
Right.
I mean, I have never used it. I kind of always had it at my desk as a novelty at work, but I get it because it's accurate and it just happens to be small. It's great.
Yeah. And it looks nice. And of course it also comes with brackets so you can mount it to your wall.
like all woodworkers tools. You'll lose it from a 10-foot view, but it's there.
Yeah. and not to bury the lead here, but you can also buy the same exact thing from Blue Spruce. So if you prefer the Woodpeckers logo or the Blue Spruce logo.
Wow.
Does the Blue Spruce have the scientifically accurate micro symbol in it where it says micro square, but it's just
yes it does.
Tail?
Yes,
okay.
It does.
You need that.
You need that. Yeah, but it has a little blue spruce tree on the side of it. So, whichever way you want to go, they got you covered.
That's pretty cool. Get yourself some today.
Exactly. With that, let's thank our patrons. So who do we have to thank this week?
For sure. We'd like to give that shout out to our Patreon supporters. As you know, today we're going to give that shout out to our friend Eric Ramel. Eric, thank you for your support. And if you would like to join Eric in supporting us, you can do that by going to patreon.com/MWA podcast.
Exactly. So thanks so much, Eric. All right. Y'all ready for the 5 questions?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's get started. Okay. What is your favorite tool? And we'll start with Brian. And our limit, as always, is 23.
23. Got it.
Okay.
I'm always whatever new tool I just got, and whatever tool I'm most recently using. Right now, that's our new CO2 laser. I think the one that I just get the most satisfaction for almost no reason is draw knives and spoke shapes. They're a ton of fun. You can go and put something in the vise or put something in the horse and pull on it and make a shaving, and you just kind of walk away happy for a couple minutes.
Yeah, totally agree.
For sure.
So how about you, Maria?
So for me, I use that Galbert caliper a lot.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite, I wish it fit. I have like overalls that I wear, and I wish it fit in my overalls because I would probably just wear it all day. But that thing is the best tool ever invented for wood turning.
Oh yeah, for spindle work at least, right?
Yeah, for spindle when you have to make something the same. Like when I do little rolling pins and stuff to try to get the size the same or whatever, it's the best. I also use this little mallet that we got from like an estate sale. It's a Rob Cosman mallet for like chisel work, and I pull that thing out for everything. Like anytime I have to hammer anything, it's that mallet. It's not a regular hammer. It has to be that one mallet.
Does it come with hockey tape on the
Yes.
handle? That's awesome.
It's
Hockey
an
tape
old,
grip.
very well used mallet,
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
and it still has the hockey tape like completely intact.
Fantastic.
That's very cool. I love a good mallet.
Yeah. I actually bought some hockey tape to put on my clamps years ago, and it's still sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
haven't
gotta
done
do,
it.
and I think what I just looked up Rob's, and he does the hockey thing where you
You
spin
twist it.
first
Yeah. Yeah.
and do that coil and then cover
Mhm.
that, and so you
Mhm.
get a little tactile grip to it, not just tape. I used to tape my hammer handles with it was hockey tape, but I would just wrap it, and
Yeah.
what it would do, it would fray over time because it's a hammer,
Yeah.
not a mallet. It's a hammer, it's a framing hammer, and just read them. But the one I've got now that just lives in my toolbox, collecting dust. It has some old ass tape on it. It's like 20 years old now. So, for next question for you guys, who has influenced you the most? Start with Brian.
For me, is definitely my dad. He was, I with him being a residential carpenter, I got the exposure to making things out of wood. Very different scale, very different, levels of precision, but he had a skill set that, whenever we did make some projects around the house, we made captain's drawers. We made one of the finest chicken coops that
I forgot about that. Yeah.
We called it Chez Poulet. It was so nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, for woodworking, that was my dad, just a huge influence.
I have to say my dad too. I think we grew up in a similar time watching Norm Abram on Saturday morning PBS, and he was a very much DIY guy, not a woodworking guy wholly, but DIY for sure. And my skills there were times where I held a tool and little more, but if I think back of all the projects that he did, I mean, that was like transforming the home, over the years and doing things. That's awesome. It's a cool inspiration.
Yeah, it was fun. Of course, there's times he was definitely a framer. So if we were doing fine work or trim work or something like that, he would come in with a 24-ounce hammer with a waffle face on it.
Oh yeah, and like, oh boy,
you knew that hammer hit something wherever it landed.
Yeah, that's the old. I used to work in engineering, and the designer guy I used to work with, he had said, "Oh, it's old time thing is you beat to fit and paint to match."
Mm-hmm.
Caulk is your friend.
Caulk is your friend. Yeah. How about you, Maria?
So, my dad was a handy guy, but he wasn't he passed away before I started woodworking, at the level that I'm doing now. But so Brian is probably the biggest influence that I have, because he's really the one that kind of pushes me in the shop, and he's like, you can let's do this project. You're gonna, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna learn from this. And
I'm hearing somebody wants a new tool now that you got your laser.
Don't say it too loud. He's sitting right there. Be careful.
It's true.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I do have woodworkers that I like to follow, and people that are inspirational, but I would say that Brian is probably the one that gets me to the shop doing what I need to do, more so than anything else.
Oh, for sure.
And I've come to rely on her opinions, and whenever it comes to design, I'm always asking, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? How are we going to do this? How's this going to work out? Butt my head up against something, and she's the first one I go to for, hey, how do I fix this?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You make a great pair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, cool. Well, so what are y'all's woodworking white whale? The one thing you haven't made but always wanted to. Start with you, Brian.
Is 23 still our limit?
Well, I got it. 12. We'll do 12 on this.
We're working.
Bombay chest. What else? Go on.
Yeah, we're working on the shop. The ultimate goal for the shop is to get it, so we can walk out of the shop, and whatever project we decide to do, we've got the we're kitted out to do whatever it is. So, our our interest in woodworking are just pretty scattershot. We, doing marquetry, doing, like I said, we've got a class coming up with Laura Kishimoto on, on bent laminations, or chair making, or any kind of square making, or square furniture or cabinetry, whatever it is. Just
so do y'all have a vacuum press yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
I can 100% certainty say before the year is out, before 2026 hits, we will be set up. And we've looked at those a few times, but we haven't had them. We haven't been close enough to making a project with that.
Yeah.
So after the class, I'm sure we're going to be doing some research. Yeah.
All right.
So the shop, and then outside of that, rocking chair, or I got exposed to Jenny Alexander's chair, and I think the thing is it's so beautiful and it's so elegant, and it's I'm 6 foot tall, so it's kind of a small chair for me, but I'd really like to make a Jenny chair.
No, that's really cool.
Yeah. So Maria, what about you?
So I have a couple of things. One of them, I want to make one of those puzzle cabinets, the ones that have like mechanisms, secret drawers, and you have to figure things out.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
15 years down the road for me. But like those, Craig Thibodeau's work is so cool. It's so interesting to see. And I know there's like a big following with people wanting to see how it works and like figuring it out. They don't want to know anything about it until they get it.
I love Craig. I love all his work and what he's done. And he's a great guy, fantastic guy. But he does all these secret projects. So it's like, okay, you never get to see what he's working on, he'll, just a little taste. And that's about it.
I will say the one project, we love Craig. We've had him on the show. He did a project for a magician / puzzle solver. Oh shoot, now I don't remember his name. Anyway, so I got to see the experience of someone working through his box, and it took him hours and all this other stuff. I mean, it was really cool, but to see all the intricate movements, you never get to see inside to how it did it.
Yeah.
Although Craig does some posts and about what he's doing, the mind of how that stuff works and the phenomenal. I'm with you. I absolutely love that stuff.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I like automatons, like the idea of having this little mechanism that makes something happen, like some kind of a cam or a gear or something that makes something else move is really interesting to me. I don't know anything about the engineering behind it. I'm sure I could learn, but if I had to pick something that was so out of my depth that I would want to learn how to do, that would probably be that.
There was an old video back of a show, a magic related show. I was into magic when I was young. But there was a guy who showed off this automaton, and it was a trapeze artist. And so it swung on a post that was hung by strings, and it itself stood in a handstand, and then flipped down and around, all through unhanded mechanical motion inside it. Phenomenal.
Wow.
But it was made in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So it's not new. It's been around for a long time. But however they do that stuff is beyond me.
Yeah, that's kind of the golden age of that.
Yeah. That mechanical age when everyone was inspired and wondering and not distracted.
well, stuff like that's going to be. I would forecast stuff like that's going to be in high demand as automated as we're getting. So some of the more simple stuff like that seems to pique the imagination.
Oh, it does, because you wonder, like, oh, this isn't a computer doing this. How does this work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm sure that laser can cut some gears and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that CO2 laser has the precision to make this happen.
Yeah.
But I only assume that there are, and I know through like what I've seen from Craig's stuff, there's dumb weights, there's things that are hidden, and you have to have everything lubricated and passages just perfect for some of that stuff to work. And I love seeing like the 17th century stuff when they open them up, they're all museum settings, but you hear all that crap happen inside the cabinet where they turn a thing or pull a thing, and you hear this ka-chunk slide, boom, and then something opens up, and it's like that's phenomenal. The mind that puts all that movement together, and it's persisted over the centuries. I mean, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. The other piece, like a furniture piece that I saw that I was just like, this is the coolest thing, was the October magazine. It was like Fine Woodworking's October edition, and it was Peter Follansbee that he was making like a 17th century cabinet. It was like a Massachusetts style, like it was very specific to Massachusetts. And it had these contrasting woods. It was all oak, and it was painted. It was all white oak, and then I think he painted this contrasting paint, like milk paint or something, on it to do like the decorative work. Had like spindles, and he's in the article, he's like doing everything with green wood. Like he's starting out with you see him cutting a log, and then the log is broken down into little pieces, and then at the very end of the article he's got like this beautiful cabinet, and everything is done by hand. There's no machines. He was using like a lathe with a string to try to turn the
He's very traditional.
It was, I was like, wow, this is nuts.
I had the opportunity some years back in the time when filming these things, not with the cell phone, but I got to be his videographer during the Woodworking in America conference. So I got to see him working up close. So cool. So cool. It's traditional, what he's teaching and what he does. It's very much of the time and the place. But you can see what you can do with simple tools and make that happen. Just simple, sharp steel and just knowing what you're doing with green white oak, which amazing. I don't know who gets that anymore, but it does. It looks aggressive when he's doing it too. There's like large chunks flying off what he's doing at times, and he knows what he's doing. It's pretty awesome.
Well, here's how you get that wood. You put an axe over your shoulder and you walk out into the woods.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Up where I am, I'm sorry, Texans. That can happen.
No, we can't do that either. So anyway,
you just have to wait for a storm. I mean, really.
You wait for one to drop a storm. I have a neighbor literally next door to me that wants to take his black walnut.
Encourage that.
You know what? He doesn't want to roll his ankles on black walnuts on the ground when he's mowing the lawn. I mean, that's really what's going on. It's crazy. But like we live in, like, my little area is known locally as Tree City because we've got a bunch of old growth traditional American hardwood they're growing here. I've got maples and ash in my backyard.
When I was just started, so that we had on one of the tree farms, we had a black walnut, and I just bought a brand new car, and I backed my tree into this walnut tree.
Back your car.
Backed my car into the tree and skinned my little plastic bumper, and so I took that tree down because I wasn't. It was a good excuse, and it was all of 12 inches maybe in diameter. It was a little bit. I sure as hell took it to the mill and had it milled up.
There you go. That darn tree. That hurt your bumper.
It had it coming.
Exactly.
All right. So next question for both of you. What is your number one tip for fellow woodworkers? And again, we'll start with Brian.
Just realize that good enough is perfect. It's kind of along the same lines of, perfect is the enemy of good sort of thing. And it's really about knowing what you want your outcome of whatever your project is. Knowing what your expectations, define what your parameters are. That way you're designing to something and you're building to something, and not, I want, if you spec their design, you wouldn't say I want the most perfect cabinet. You're like, well, I want a cabinet this size, this shape, this with this top out of this wood to come in at this price point. And I think you find by the time you're done with that, you've got a project that's good enough, and you don't have to try to overbuild it. You don't have to try to over design it and over engineer it. Know what it is you're looking for, and just call it good. And then you can be satisfied with the outcome instead of saying, well, I want. Whenever I started, I had in mind to build the most perfect project ever, but that's it's really undefined.
Yeah.
It's not something you're going to hit. and then you'd be disappointed by not hitting the perfect project.
Right.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as a perfect project.
How about you, Maria?
For me, it's just not to take yourself too seriously. I'm still too much of a newbie to be giving advice to any woodworker. But as an artist, you know, it's really about not taking yourself too seriously and not getting so caught up in little things that don't matter in the long run. Like my students always have like these little mistakes, and then they get obsessed with them, and then they like over erase, and then they ruin the paper. And it's the same thing with woodworking. Like, you have to know when to stop and just be okay with it. You know, it's going to be fine. And it hurts your ego less, you know, when you just don't care as much, like when you don't take yourself that seriously. So like the mistakes don't matter as much. And then the other thing is, don't point out the mistakes. Like, you don't have to tell everyone that you messed this thing up and this is how you fixed it. Just let it go and just let them enjoy it, and they don't have to know anything.
Guilty as charged. So bad, but I get it. That's a hard lesson to try to take away the focus on mistake or just the inaccurate or whatever, you know. And you know, for anything, I mean, art to woodworking and everywhere in between. I mean, it's, for me at least, that's it's difficult because I have an engineering mind, and so I'm looking for precision along the way. And if I make that gap happen, and I don't, I mean, I might fix it, but I'm gonna see it every time I look at it. My wife might not, but I just might point it out, you know, because I'm like, oh shucks, that happened. And that's a hard lesson. So you're absolutely, that's a good tip.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the only time you ever really get self-conscious about it too is when you have another woodworker nearby and you feel like you have to tell them, because you feel like they see it.
They must.
And so
right?
you have to point it out so that they know, I know I made a mistake here. You know, like it's, you have to justify it, but you don't have to do that.
No. And what is it? I mean, the masters in their trade aren't perfect,
Right.
but they know how to correct their mistakes.
Correct.
Because everyone makes
Yeah.
They happen. Hopefully not repeatable major mistakes, but mistakes.
Happy little accidents.
Happy little accidents. Is that a Bob Ross
Drugs.
thing? Yeah.
Yep. Bob Ross. There you go. Well, speaking of happy little accidents, what is your go-to finish?
Because I try to avoid those happy accidents, we usually try to keep it pretty simple. So most of the time it's hard wax oil. We did Rubio for a lot of years, and you know, it's kind of expensive. So we and it's a two-part. So once you've mixed it, whatever you didn't use, you're tossing.
Yeah.
So we've switched over to a one-part like Osmo. So we use that a lot. And then we've got for certain projects, we've got a lacquer just always in the gun of the HVLP, just ready to spray. So most, you know, hard wax oils and lacquer for the most part.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I do like lacquer. It's pretty easy to apply, and it's a pretty flawless finish too when you get it done. And if you do, and that's one of the great things about lacquer is if you do make a mistake, just let it dry and shoot it again.
Dissolves itself.
Yeah.
And it's nice. We can just leave it in the gun. We don't have to clean it up. And once we're ready to shoot it, just shoot it.
Yeah. Maria, what about yourself?
Same. I mean, I like that satiny kind of finish that the hard wax oils give off. I don't tend to like really shiny finishes. Unless it's like for a really specific reason, you know. I'm sure I'll change my mind later when I make more things, but for now it's I think we've run out of Rubio, so we're using the Osmo. And the lacquer again, that's what we have. I mean, I've made some where it like dripped, and then I just brushed it over it, and it just kind of dissolved itself, and none the wiser. Like, it was totally fine.
Yep. Yeah, do y'all have like a specific setup for spraying, or you like me in the backyard?
We're kind of like you in the backyard.
Yeah.
If we can kind of make it at the end of the day, we might spray in the garage with the mask and just get the heck out of there and let it sit overnight and come back and hold our nose the next day.
We have a spray tent. We just haven't used it yet. We haven't had a need to use it.
Yeah, I've looked at those too, and it's like, I don't know.
Just
The
stay,
overspray is not so bad. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Stand-
Well,
stand
lacquer
upwind.
dries by the time it hits the ground anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, with that, where can folks find y'all on the interwebs?
so we are at Heartwood Woodshop on Instagram, heartwoodwoodshop.com, and then my handle is at MDMCarlo on Instagram. Brian's is at Brian_Murrah, and you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Well, thank y'all both so much. This was it was fun getting back together with y'all. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Had a great time. Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Great talking to you guys. Sorry
Yeah.
I haven't met you, but sometime in the future, hopefully.
We'll cross paths.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.